This is Willie Weathers. Growing up, Willie lived through very hard times, as he was from the hood of Los Angeles, California. He was a part of a gang called the 88s, and he saw street violence all the time because of it. And it got to the point where Willie had watched his cousin Roger get run down by a rival gang, and it had caused Willie to slip into darkness. On top of that, Willie found out his mama kept getting beat by her boyfriend. I'm tired of this. So one day, Willie decided to take matters into his own hands. He had gunned down his mama's boyfriend, and unfortunately, this meant that Willie had to go away to a program for troubled young men just like him. But when he got there, it turns out he was a dog on the football field, and it was all thanks to his coach, who pushed him to be somebody.
You're a good football player, too. I think you may even be great. And I'm gonna push you until we find out.
And today, we will find out, as we continue on with the story of Willie Weathers, and we follow him on his road to glory. Now, coming out of high school, Willie was good enough to be a 4-star recruit, and he knew it was important for him to one day make it to the league. He didn't have offers from the Georgia or Alabamas of the world, but he did earn scholarships from a lot of good schools, including one school that he felt like could keep him out the hood and give him an opportunity to play. So Willie Weathers had signed with Iowa. Now, the first order of business was to get Willie some new gear, because he remembered his time with those same colors on the Mustangs, where he was out there rocking with no drip. So he had to go take care of that real quick. In the first practice, Willie was out there balling. He was showing the coaches that he had some major potential. But then after practice, the starting running back started talking crazy to Willie. And you can take Willie Weathers out the hood, but you can't take the hood out of Willie Weathers. So nah, he wasn't going for none of that. He clapped right back, and I think he said something along the lines of, "If you don't shut your goofy ass, bitch ass, punk ass the fuck up, I'll take your spot with my eyes closed, nigga. 88 for life, boy. Watch your fucking mouth." Now, the coaches did not really like that, but this does show a little bit of improvement because it's a lot better than how Willie used to respond to disrespect.
I heard about you, you buster. Got your boy free killed.
I'll kill you. I'll kill all you. 88 for life, bitch.
But because Willie was acting out, he had to stay on the bench for the majority of this first game. He did end up getting in for a little bit as he got a 5-yard carry while down by 7. But maybe they should have played Willie more after only winning by 7 against this FCS team. After the game, Willie was upset about his playing time, so he wasn't about to do any of the stuff that these seniors were trying to ask him to do. He had better things to do, like come out to practice and show the coaches why he should be getting more touches on the field. He spent a lot of his free time working hard to get better, because he knew going into this next game against Iowa State, he was going to take advantage of every opportunity he got. They put him out there at wide receiver in the third quarter, and he hit the DB with a little shimmy at the top of the route, caught the ball, and fought his way down to the 1-yard line. Somebody else had took his touchdown, but Willie was out there showing that he can make some major plays on the ground. And when they put him back in the game with 1 minute left, Willie took this carry and ran around the edge and raced down the sideline before getting stopped inside the red zone. And this carry actually sealed the deal to help put this game away 14-11. Willie was starting to show that he could be a major contributor, even with the small opportunities that he's had. And he wanted to continue this momentum going into this next game against Troy, where they put him in the second quarter, and Willie was out there at wide receiver. As soon as the ball was snapped, Willie jumped off the line, hit the DB with a little skibbity-doo-bop at the top of the route. Then he broke off this tackle and started running down the sideline all the way into the end zone for another touchdown on his season. And he got out to let everybody know that it's about to be his time soon. And he was about to prove it further here, as he caught this pass out of the backfield, took it to the flats, and then jumped over a guy before picking up a first down. But he was also showing how big of a threat he could be on the ground, as he was consistently helping to pick up big first downs. And he did more than enough to help Iowa get another victory, as they were now ranked the 25th team in the country. But also, Willie had actually won player of the game, largely due to his 8 receptions and a 150-plus yard performance. But Willie wasn't about to sit there and get complacent. He continued to work hard. And although he only got to play 1 snap in his next game that didn't even end up counting, he had a feeling that he was about to be in for some good news. And it turns out that he was right, because going into the next week, he had an opportunity to become the starting halfback for the University of Iowa. And just like many of his opportunities recently, Willie was looking forward to taking full advantage of this one. He went out there and showed the coaches exactly why he needed to be on the field. as he took that starting spot and told the other running back to keep the bench warm for him. Willie hadn't even realized that he was starting to make a name for himself, as he earned his first NIL deal of his college career. But as cool as that was, it was time to get back to business, because Iowa was about to get ready to face off against the #1 team in the country, the Ohio State Buckeyes. To begin his career as a starter, Willie came out there and showed everybody why he should have been playing the entire time. But they were still playing the #1 team in the nation, so it wasn't always going to look so easy. That Ohio State defense was continuously ruining drives throughout the majority of this first half. Iowa didn't really start getting anything going until they started running Willie to the outside. It seemed like getting him in open space was a great idea, as he was continuously helping to move the chains. Eventually, he brought his team all the way down to the goal line, where he would run this ball in for the first rushing touchdown of his college football career.
Touchdown, Hawkeye.
And you see, he's actually pointing to his 88 tattoo underneath his wrist tape, because he knows he got homies at the crib watching. Unfortunately, as well as Willie Weathers could play, his quarterback seemed to be playing the exact opposite. But it wasn't just that, their offensive line was being overrun, and it was hard for Willie to get any yards on the ground. As much as they were able to drive down the field, that Iowa quarterback would end up throwing not just one, but 2 picks that would ultimately put this game out of reach, making this a 28-7 loss, the first loss of Iowa's season. Although Willie did have a great game going for over 100 yards and a touchdown, he absolutely hated losing, especially in embarrassing fashion. So he didn't really know how to handle this, until he thought about some stuff his old coach used to say.
I still don't believe that they're the better team. I would not trade you for them. Once you hold your heads up high.
Willie had realized that he is not a loser, and he was about ready to go out there with his teammates and prove it against the number 18th ranked University of Washington. To start this game off, this team looked like it had no chemistry, as they got stopped for a 3-and-out early on their first drive. Luckily, Willie Weathers was determined to make an impact, whether it be on the ground or in pass protection, as he helped make the block here to help give his quarterback enough time to make the completion across the middle. Unfortunately, their quarterback was still garbage and threw an interception that would kill the drive. Thankfully, they had a great defense that would give them the ball back in plus territory, and that would allow for Willie Weathers to get in for the first touchdown of the game for Iowa, taking the lead in the process. And even though Washington took it right back, Iowa was looking to bring themselves downfield again, and eventually they completed the job as they got in for another touchdown. In the second half, Willie was continuing to make an impact. He caught this ball out of the backfield and said, "Hey," before picking up a big first down. He was running all over this Washington defense in the second half, and eventually he would run it in for his second touchdown of the game that would ultimately put this game out of reach, as Iowa would go on to win 24-17. Willie ended up winning player of the game with 93 rushing yards and 2 touchdowns. And as good as he thought that was, apparently the coaches didn't agree. They were hounding him the following week about running through contact and lowering his shoulder, basically telling him that he's been running soft. And honestly, this was the type of thing that Willie needed, and it immediately gave him flashbacks about how his old coach made him run harder. He thought about the day where he couldn't leave practice until he ran over somebody 3 times his size.
Do it again. We're going to stay out here all day if it kills us, Weathers. You are going to put me on my ass.
And Willie had realized that he still had that kind of power in him. He just had to come out in his next game against Michigan State and prove it to everybody who was watching. Willie started this game off immediately shoving off a lineman and powering his way for a first down. He was out there weaving through traffic, picking up multiple first downs, eventually even able to bring his team all the way down to the goal line, where he took this carry all the way around the edge and got himself into the end zone for the first points of the game for Iowa. He would continue on his rampage of fighting through tackles and picking up big gains. Every time he took the ball out to the edge, he was bound to either make somebody miss or power through multiple tackles. And although the drive would end in a field goal, Iowa kept their foot on the gas as they completed a pass that got them all the way down to the goal line, where Willie Weathers ran out to the flat and caught a pass before going in for another touchdown on the day. With the help of his 90 overall left tackle, Willie was able to run all over this Spartan defense. And the quarterback was passing all over him too, as he throws a deep ball all the way down the field that goes into the end zone for another touchdown on his day. And this would be more than enough to help keep Michigan State away from winning, as Iowa went on to win 24-22. in a game where Willie rushed for over 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. But there was even some better news, because his girlfriend Denise had asked Willie to come out with her to a party. So especially since she was his day one girl, who not only followed him to college, but was the same girl who came to visit him when he was locked up in juvie. So since he's been so busy with football, he wasn't about to pass up the opportunity to see her. The good thing about Willie having a girl like that is that she was never a distraction. He was more than ready the following week as he got locked into playing his next game against Northwestern. Now this game started off slow as Iowa got stopped on their first possession, but they immediately began to pick it up at the start of the second quarter, as Willie Weathers was out there making some impressive plays to help move the chains. Eventually they would get stopped on third down, resulting in a field goal, but right as halftime was about to hit, Willie was about to find himself wide open as he caught a pass down the sideline and dove his way into the end zone for the first touchdown of the day for Iowa. But Iowa wasn't done yet. With the game tied at 10, they were looking to assert some dominance and gain some more momentum. Willie was able to run his team down inside the red zone, where he would eventually take the opportunity to carry this ball again and run his way into the end zone for another touchdown to take the lead. And by the fourth quarter, well, that momentum was momentuming, as Iowa would work their way down to the goal line once again, and Willie would rush in for another touchdown, and Willie had immediately knew that it was time up for Northwestern. Iowa would go on to win 24-17, while Willie Weathers had 138 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns, not to mention another 9 receptions and 115 yards through the air. Now, although most things seemed to be going great for Willie, the one thing that he wasn't paying enough attention toward was school. Luckily, that wasn't affecting him right now, as he would go on to win National Offensive Player of the Week for his performance. So he didn't have time to focus on school right now because winning these games were important. He had to lock back in and get ready for his next game against 20th ranked Wisconsin. To start this game, Iowa found themselves down by 10, but Willie Weathers was out there routing these boys up, catching his ball and bringing his team all the way down to the 1-yard line, where of course it was Willie Weathers who would finish the job and get into the end zone for the first touchdown of the day for Iowa. In the second half, they found themselves in a tie ball game, and Willie wanted to be the person to push his team over the edge. So he was out there continuing to make plays, eventually bringing his team inside the red zone, where the quarterback found a wide open man over the middle for probably the easiest touchdown of his life. But this game had become so stalemated that it eventually went into overtime, where Willie was the guy to get into the end zone to score some points and break the tie. And after Wisconsin goes back up ahead but fails their 2-point conversion, Iowa was on the verge of taking this game. They just needed Willie Weathers to get around the edge and get himself into the end zone for a touchdown and get in there once again by earning this 2-point conversion, and that would be enough for Iowa to escape this game 32-30, as Willie Weathers would go for 98 yards and 3 touchdowns. Things were definitely going Willie Weathers' way, and he was looking forward to keeping it going until all that slacking around with classwork started to catch up with old Willie. And unfortunately, this meant that he was ineligible and had to work his way to get back on the field. He had a 2.0 GPA and was extremely behind on classwork. Willie couldn't believe that he was about to miss some time because of this, but eventually he decided to do some self-reflection, and he thought about some words that he once heard that he knew was going to be important to him throughout the rest of his life.
Ain't gonna help you out here, Willie. You got no homeboys, you got no help. You damn sure ain't got no gun, and you can't run away. You got nobody but yourself. But goddammit, that's all you need. Believe in yourself.
Willie had decided to get his head back on straight. He went to mandatory study hall and got back to working as hard as he could at practice, until eventually he was allowed to play in a game against Maryland. And it was a game where Iowa was definitely doing their thing, and Willie Weathers was looking to make up for some lost time. He was out there running all over the field, picking a big first down saying, "Hey," before moving the chains. He even had a play where he ran an out route toward the sideline and said, "Wang." But Willie wasn't even close to being done yet. He would come out 2 plays later. He would find a way to run past the entire defense before running into the end zone for another touchdown on his season to extend the lead. And he was feeling so confident that he had to let the world know that he was coming for that Heisman. He would bring his team back downfield once again before getting himself into the end zone for another touchdown, and this one would effectively put this game away. Iowa would win 27-6, in a game where Willie not only had 200 yards rushing, but over 100 yards receiving. On top of that, he had no plans of slowing down, and it seemed like with Willie back in the lineup, Iowa was playing just that much better, as they scored a touchdown in the second quarter of the final regular season game to push it to a 10-point lead. And eventually, Willie would get the opportunity to get himself in the end zone before the half. as he goes in for a touchdown with under 20 seconds left. In the second half, it was more of the same, as Willie Weathers was continuing to establish himself as a lethal weapon on the outside. But he was also a major weapon between the tackles, as he would get in for not only one, but 2 touchdowns to end this game and put it away, as Iowa would go on to beat the fake-ass Mahomes-led Nebraska team 31-15, mostly due to Willie Weathers' 130 yards on the ground and 3 touchdowns. And as great as Willie has been playing all season, he didn't realize that he might actually have an opportunity to win the Heisman Trophy. I mean, it made sense considering he almost had 1,000 yards rushing, with also almost 1,000 yards receiving. So going into the Big Ten Conference Championship game against the Oregon Ducks, Willie knew he had an opportunity to not only win a trophy for his team, but also for himself. So to start this game, this Iowa team couldn't even get past half field. It wasn't until late in the second half where they would find Willie in open space and allow him to bring the team all the way inside the red zone. And with about 30 seconds left in the half, Willie would take this pass and shrug off a defender before powering his way into the end zone for a touchdown to tie the game up. But during the second half, Willie started to realize that the main reason why they are the #1 team in the country is because of him. And he saw how hard it was to really get things going with this offensive line. Not to mention having a quarterback who seemed to have an infatuation with throwing interceptions throughout the majority of this season. So it really hit Willie that this team would only go as far as he goes. And it just so happened that he was going pretty far on this play, bringing his team all the way downfield before saying "excuse me" to a defender and getting brought down in the red zone. But after the quarterback comes out and throws another interception late in the fourth quarter, that would unfortunately dash all the hopes for Iowa to win this game, as they would go on to lose 24-14. Now the worst part about this game is that although Willie didn't get a lot of rushing yards, he had his best receiving game of his career, going for over 200 yards, and it still wasn't enough. But it was enough for him to eventually win National Player of the Week. But not only that, his performance all year long earned him Player of the Year, along with becoming the first player to win the Heisman Trophy for the University of Iowa since Niall Kinnick won it in 1939. And Willie would go on to obviously win a bunch of other awards, including All-American and First Team All-Big Ten. But now that he had won those awards, it had become more important to Willie to show everybody that he was not a loser. So now that it was time for the playoffs, this Willie Weathers-led Iowa team was ready to lock in as they were set to face off against Texas State. You know, for as locked in as they thought they were going to be, it didn't really seem that way on their first possession. By the second quarter, they were down by 7, and it wasn't until then where they started to actually heat up, as the quarterback finds a man open downfield who got into the end zone for a touchdown to tie the game. But that was not about to be it for the second quarter scoring, because Willie Weathers takes his out and up route all the way inside the red zone before finding a way to plunge the ball into the end zone himself, taking the lead in this game. But like I said, no matter what Willie did, he could not stop his quarterback from being absolutely atrocious. But he has a wide open field here and decides to throw the ball out of bounds with all of this open space. The dude had practically killed the drive single-handedly, so now it was going to have to be time for Willie to take the game over himself, as he takes this ball around the edge and finds himself outrunning everybody before eventually finding himself fighting into the end zone for another touchdown, and reminded everybody in the stadium of exactly who he was. But Texas State was clearly in the playoffs for a reason, because they would fight back to take the lead again. Unfortunately, they had left too much time on the clock for Willie Weathers in this Iowa team. They handed the ball off to Willie, and he continued to move his way down the field until eventually he got his team down by the goal line. And with under a minute left, he punched it in for a touchdown to take the lead. And after Texas State could not get the ball down the field, that meant that Iowa would end up winning this game 28-24. And this W actually became their first ever college football playoff win. But everybody knew the job wasn't done yet, including Willie Weathers, as he continued to work on his abilities, going into another big-time matchup as Iowa was set to face off against the Clemson Tigers. Now, Iowa would start this game off like they have many times before, struggling on their open possession. Luckily, the defense came out swinging as they came out and scored a touchdown their damn self, but that was really all this team could get done throughout the majority of this game. Even going into the second half, they were getting stopped multiple times on third down. It wasn't until a little later on where Willie Weathers started to make an impact on this game, doing his part as this team eventually got themselves into the end zone for a touchdown as they took the lead 14-7. But then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, one of their Clemson defenders starts talking crazy to Willie.
Afraid to get hit, boy? Don't like it, do ya? Wow!
And that made Willie pretty mad, but what made him even more mad is realizing that his quarterback might have the brain of a damn insect. Because once again, with plenty of open space, they decided to just throw the ball away, leading to another failed third down. So now with less than a minute left and down by 3, Willie knew with the season on the line, he had to be the guy to make the play. And he did, as he brought the team all the way down inside the red zone. And with the clock clicking down with under 40 seconds left, Willie Weathers finds himself into the end zone for another touchdown to take the lead in his playoff game in its final moments. And he made sure to talk his smack to those defenders.
You alright, nigga?
And with Clemson unable to score, Iowa would go on to win this playoff game 21-17. And just like that, Iowa was moving on to the next round. But they knew the job was still not done yet. They were still hoping to win 2 more games. This next one against Miami, and whoever they may play in the championship, they'll be ready for them too. But for now, Willie was still working to get better, because he knew he still had some business to take care of against Cam Ward and the Miami Hurricanes. In yet another game where Iowa was getting off to another slow start, they realized this Miami defense was probably just as effective as their offense. Iowa felt lucky to be able to get 3 points before the half, and by the end of it find themselves in Miami's territory looking to score some more. It wasn't until about a minute and 45 left where Willie Weathers took this pass and just jogged his way into the end zone for a touchdown to put Iowa up by 3. But after Miami came out, scored another touchdown and took the lead back, Iowa began to grow deflated. And a lot of players started to lose hope that they could eventually win this game. So when they went into halftime and Willie noticed that the morale was low, he knew it was time to step up in other ways and become a leader.
They ain't that good, man. We're better. And it means much more to us. We showed people something. We changed. All we gotta do is go out there and show it one more time.
Well, let me tell you, they came out of that locker room with some fire. They immediately drove down the field on their first drive and got themselves in the red zone. They handed the ball off to Willie Weathers, who brought it around the edge and found himself gliding into the end zone for a touchdown to take the lead in this game. Still, though, the job was not finished, and Willie definitely knew that. He continued to work hard to get his team in scoring position. He brought him down to the goal line where he ran in for another touchdown to extend this lead to 2 possessions. And then in the fourth quarter, Willie was proving that he could make it happen all over the field, as he would go on to split 2 defenders, catch the ball, and race into the end zone for another touchdown on the day to extend the game to 3 possessions. But still, Willie was not yet finished. He would take this handoff around the edge and race his way all the way down the sideline before eventually diving into the end zone for another touchdown, putting this game officially out of reach as Miami's comeback would fall short. And Iowa would go on to win this game 38-35 and book their ticket to the national championship. And this was an absolutely huge deal for this university, as they hadn't even been to a national championship since 1958. And it was all thanks to Willie Weathers, who scored 5 touchdowns in this game. Willie would go on to win Big Ten Player of the Week for that performance. And even with the season finally about to come to a close, Willie continued to work hard on his abilities, because he knew that now he was about to go into the biggest game of his life, as he and the Iowa Hawkeyes were set to face off against the Texas Longhorns in the national championship. Now, you may or may not be surprised, but Iowa got off to another slow start in this game. Not only unable to pick up first downs, but was continuously getting dropped in the backfield. And it seemed clear very early on that if Iowa didn't have Willie Weathers out there making plays, they might not have a chance at all in this game. Willie was consistently helping to move this team down the field. By the second quarter, he brought his team all the way down the field into the red zone, where it looks like they're in great position to score in this play, but that Texas front seven absolutely demolished the line of scrimmage, causing the quarterback to fumble and create a turnover. It was all good though, because with 1 minute left in the half, they continued to get the ball to Willie Weathers, where he led the team right back downfield and finished the job in the end zone, scoring a touchdown to make this game 7-10. Unfortunately, something that Willie still had to deal with was having a quarterback who played with his eyes closed, as he throws another pick on the season and allows Texas to go up by 10 points going into the fourth quarter. And now down by multiple possessions, Willie knows that this team needs to stop bullshitting. The coach allows them to go for it on fourth down so they can keep the chains moving. But when the quarterback is out there throwing a Casper the Ghost, it's real hard to keep any momentum going. Towards the end of the fourth quarter, Iowa was getting really lucky as the defense was holding Texas to no points. So now with about 2 minutes left, they had an opportunity to go downfield and tie this game up, which is what Willie Weathers was looking to do right now, as he races down the sideline all the way into the end zone for a touchdown with 2 minutes left. And surprisingly, Texas actually allows this game to go to overtime, where on their first possession, they actually score a touchdown. But that was nothing, because so did Iowa as Willie Weathers got in for a touchdown of his own. Willie being the absolutely biggest catalyst for this team's success this season, they would have to keep giving him the ball to have a chance. And eventually he was able to bring them in for another touchdown to take the lead in the game. All they had to do now was just score the 2-point conversion, which unfortunately they failed. So now they have to rely on their defense to get a stop, which eventually they don't. And Iowa would go on to lose this national championship. I mean, this was absolutely devastating. But Willie himself couldn't be too upset, because in this moment he remembered a time where he almost quit football altogether.
Not me. I need this shit.
So even though he was on the losing end of this game, he knew that nobody was going to call him a loser, especially after still winning player of the game, after going for over 200 rushing yards and 4 touchdowns, not to mention the extra 14 receptions and 160 receiving yards. Willie Weathers had gone above and beyond to show that he was a special player, ending second in the entire country in rushing yards and standing alone at number 1 in receiving yards. Also, Willie would go on to set the record in the Big Ten for most receptions at 131. Plus, he had broken some school records including receiving yards and rushing touchdowns. Willie sat back and reflected upon how far he really came. He started off as some kid in a street gang, and he had evolved into a star football player and a Heisman Trophy winner. This was the story of Willie Weathers. And if you want to see more Willie Weathers or any other character, be sure to hit the like button down below and subscribe to the channel. And also be sure to comment down below who else you guys want to see next. If you got to the point in this video, just know that I appreciate you more than you'll ever know. And shout out to all of you who commented for me to do the story of Willie Weathers. I hope all of your college football and NFL teams win this weekend. And other than that, I'm going to catch you guys next time.